Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the 19th hole. I am Nate Paulvote at GNateJackFF on Twitter, here with my co-host, Connor Coughlin. Connor, how are you tonight, man?
Good, man. How you been?
Oh, not too bad. Living life. It's been rainy and crappy here the last 4 days. So it's May. I'm ready for it to be summer. Our heat should not be on because seriously, it's almost June.
So I can't relate. It's been sunny, 80 degrees, very humid, a little bit windy, but no, gorgeous down here in South Carolina. So
it looks beautiful. Looks absolutely beautiful. So I heard you had tickets to the PGA Championship this weekend.
I did. So we had my fiance for our anniversary bought me grounds passes, week-long grounds passes, and we were actually in Group A. So we got our tickets quick. And then the PGA sent out an email a few months back saying hey, due to COVID, we're only going to let about 10,000 people out, but it's in order of where you purchased. And I was like, oh, awesome. Well, we're Group A. We should be solid. Yeah, turns out not so much. So we had this trip planned to be down here for a week. And, luckily my parents live down here. So we're shacking up with my parents and playing a literal ton of golf. So
that I haven't played a round of golf in 4 years. So that sounds amazing. That's what happens when you have kids sometimes. You just don't get to do the things you love, but I still get to watch golf. Yeah, and that's why we're all here, because we love to watch golf and we love to gamble on golf and and we love bourbon.
That's true. Yeah.
So tonight
I'm best at drinking bourbon, honestly.
Oh no, I mean, yes, I'm far better at drinking bourbon than most other things that I do in this life, because it's so easy. It's just so good. It's just so good. So tonight, guys, we are going to be talking about the PGA Championship at the Kauai Island Ocean Resort in South Carolina. And then also we're going to be tasting. I've got Woodford Reserve and Connor has the Woodford Reserve Double Oaked Bourbon. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that and the golf. So that's what we've got. And I think let's get going. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about let's talk, kind of give us a quick overview of what we're going to be tasting. Just a real quick, this is what it is. And we'll get a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah. So Nate's got Woodford Reserve. I've got Woodford Double Oaked. Both are same proof. Not a whole lot of difference there. The biggest difference between the two juices that we're going to taste is mine's been aged in oak twice. And so that's probably the biggest difference between what we've got on the table in front of us. Both are part of Brown-Forman nowadays, which is a lot of people would better know Jack Daniels as part of that family. So other than that, Nate, you got some history for us, I think.
I do. So it's actually interesting. I kind of dug into the history of the Woodford Distillery today. So it actually was formerly known as the old Oscar Pepper Distillery, and then later the LeBreau and Graham Distillery, which they began distilling on site in 1812, which that's crazy to think that it's a 200-year-old plus distillery. They're almost 200-year-old distillery. Nope, 200-year plus. Sorry, my math is off here.
Golden High School,
right? No, hey, I went to Wheat Ridge, so even
worse.
It's
almost as bad.
Probably worse. So they haven't maintained operations continuously since 1812 to today, but the main structure that was built in 1838 is actually one of the oldest distilleries in Kentucky. It's listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is designated as a National Historical Landmark for its well-preserved distillery architecture and its role in the development of the bourbon industry in Kentucky. It was sold in the 1960s, actually, to a farmer who converted it into a farm, of course, as farmers do. There was no distilling going on from then until 1993, when it was purchased, refurbished, and brought back into operation. Woodford Reserve was first introduced into the market in 1996. So kind of a cool history. Really neat that it's on the National Historic Buildings Register. So it's protected, can never be torn down, and it'll continue to operate. So we know that this bourbon isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
Thank God.
Thank God, because it's delicious. All right. So tell us a little bit about the flavor profiles. Let's kind of get into the tasting part of it here.
Yeah, and again, keeping with our theme as always, the bottle that Nate's got, you're probably looking around somewhere between low 30s, even maybe high 30s per bottle. The bottle I've got is going to be a little more expensive. You're probably about $10 more than the standard Woodford on average. Both are still readily available. So yeah, that's just a little price point note.
Yeah, I got this little 375 guy for $19.99. So
yeah, which is a steal. I mean, it's great.
Yep. Unless you're having a really bad night, this is enough to get you by for a while. So
absolutely. Yeah. So with both of them, as far as tasting notes, like on the nose, a lot of times you're going to get hit with a lot more caramel, kind of honey. I think one thing about Woodford that I've always loved is you get a lot more of like dark chocolate to it. It's a lot more malty than the nose is, for sure. And with the double oak, kind of something that I get a lot of times is maybe like a toasted marshmallow almost, or like a yeah, I don't want to say s'mores, but when it all comes together, you kind of get that nose off of it.
Fair.
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer, but that's what I get. One big difference between the two bottles that we're tasting tonight is Nate's is just aged in a single barrel, whereas mine is aged in 2 barrels. The unique thing about the Woodford Double Oaked, at least at the time when it was first released, was that they used the second barrel instead of being a used barrel or a barrel that held different spirits or wines or whatever. Woodford decided to use a brand new virgin oak with virgin char. So you're basically getting the same process twice, but because you've already gone through one maturation process, you're getting even more of the same type of flavor. It's almost like amplifying it on that second pass through. So
interesting.
So yeah, a lot of the things that you taste, Nate, are going to be a little more heightened on my end. Some things that maybe are a little more unique to my side, especially when we taste through it real quick, is that it's going to be, I get a lot more like dark fruit notes. I'm going to get some, I kind of get like a green apple almost.
Okay.
On some of the actual like,
it's like a little bit of like tartness kind of.
Yeah,
okay.
little tart. Yeah. So and on some of those dark fruit notes too. I mean, you can have some of the dark fruit that will present as more tart, or I don't want to say sour because that's not the right thing, but kind of go down that road, like stop short of sour, and that's kind of where you're at.
Right. All right. Well, let's take a sip here. Little hint of pepper on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
It's very slight, and as it's running back through, kind of fairly heavy on the caramel. Hey, Bo, hot box, damn straight, the best hot sauce you will ever have.
I'm still waiting for my free samples. I'm still waiting.
You're gonna have to come out here and have some of mine. That stuff's too good to be free, man. Too good to be free. So I've definitely got caramel with a little, like, tiny bit of vanilla, but then I'm picking up, like, as it's kind of settling in my mouth, like light citrus, but very light. And I can't really discern what type of citrus. It's just got that like citric acid almost feel to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And actually one thing that I sometimes get from base Woodford especially is I get almost like an orange zest. And I think that's why I like it in an old fashioned so much is you actually throw that orange peel in there, and it just heightens the actual juice a little bit.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's you can definitely get that in there. You get some, again, maybe you're getting a combination of the dark fruit and the apple, kind of that flavor. So
the second sip, I definitely can kind of taste that green apple a little more on the roof of my mouth than anywhere else is kind of coming through. It feels like, but man, the thing that has always really struck me about Woodford is it's so smooth. It doesn't like gag you at the back of your throat, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't gag you at the back of your throat like some do, and even some high end ones can, where they're just not as smooth on the finish on the back end. But Woodford just kind of nails that.
Yeah, and I think it was last week or week before you were talking about chewing on your whiskey a little bit, and I think a nice thing about Woodford is it's got a nice body to it, where it's almost got a little bit of creaminess, a little bit of butteriness to it. So it's one of those that you can kind of chew on a little bit and play with. One thing I will say about the finish is I don't think that the flavors linger as long as I would like. I think the kind of the alcohol finish lingers, but the flavors are kind of in and out. So that might be one thing that as something that I'd like to see more of. I like when I can kind of like pucker my lips or, pinch my cheeks a little and go back to the flavor,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's nice to not have to drink more to keep the taste going, to have just kind of kick around in your mouth, and can save you some points with your significant other. Maybe you don't stumble up the stairs because, it lingered just a little bit longer. However, I do enjoy drinking it, so I'm kind of okay with having to go back to the bottle to have a little bit more. It's quite tasty. So
take a little stutter step or two. I don't mind.
Yep. I feel like this would be really good. A good application would be, like you said, an old fashioned. That absolutely makes sense. And I'm starting to kind of feel a little bit of that citrus, that orange zest that you were talking about. But a Manhattan, this would be killer in a Manhattan. I probably had a Manhattan with Woodford in it before, I would guess. But man, this would be so good in a Manhattan.
And the double oak too, like I said, is just going to have amplification of what you're tasting. Right. And so there's really probably, at least as far as my shelf's concerned, I mean, it's one of those I can pick up any day of the week and feel awesome about. I mean, it's just I know what I'm getting. I know it's solid.
It's tried, it's true.
For sure. And we talked about, kind of the sweet spot for proof, as far as I'm concerned, is, somewhere just under 100. This one hits at about 90 and a half.
Yeah, I think it's like 90.4.
Yep. And both of them are, which is actually also kind of cool too. So
yeah, that is.
Yeah, really versatile spirit. And like I said, if you like base Woodford and you want to spend a couple extra bucks, double oaked is basically Woodford on steroids a little bit. So it's every bit as good, just a lot more going on.
No, it's a good one. So for our listeners, our viewers, whichever way you're consuming what we're doing, so Woodford Reserve is delicious. I think maybe, what I think we should start doing? I'm calling it now. I'm going to call it now. We need to give it a star rating. So based on some of the bourbons we've tasted, I'm going to give this one not a 5, but I'm going to give it a 4.5.
All right. So like a birdie, you'd give it a birdie.
I like that. Give it a birdie. It's not an Eagle, which we're going to have to taste Eagle Rare one of these days. So that's a good one. It's a little bit pricier, but
no, it's not bad. It's not bad. You can grab a bottle for about $40.
Yeah, that isn't bad. I can get a little guy for 20. So there you go.
I might know a guy.
I might know a guy too. I think I might be looking at him.
All right, but yeah, I like that. Well, let's go with that. It's a birdie. We'll take a birdie on the way. It's
a birdie. So, and for reference here, Jack Daniel's is probably a par. And yes, Seth is asking, you can find anything that we're going to bring to you in this show on any given time. You can find pretty much anywhere. Even if you live in Colorado, we have a lot of mom and pop corner liquor stores. You're going to be able to find it there. You're going to be able to find this just about anywhere that sells any sort of spirits, bourbon. It's going to be a pretty standard one. That's kind of what we're trying to stick with here in this show. We want these to be approachable bourbons and spirits that we're tasting, things that you can easily find that aren't going to break the bank for you. So yeah, Seth, you can probably find it at, I can't remember what they're called in Pennsylvania now. Dispensaries, I think. Is that right? Is it? They're like liquor dispensaries.
Is that what it is for real?
I think that, Seth, you're going to have to answer in the chat because we've talked about it a million times, and I should know this. Eagle Rare, $35 in California. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, and you can find Eagle Rare. You can absolutely find for around that price. I mean, it totally can. In markets where it's more readily available, that's about what it should cost. Unfortunately, places where it's a little harder to get, the retailers pump it up a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
I would say one thing that's interesting right now.
Distributors. Okay.
Yes, which is actually what I work for. But the one thing I will say about Woodford Double Oaked right now, at least in the Midwest, there is a little bit of a bottle shortage on that particular bottle design from the manufacturer of the glass, not the distillery. So Double Oaked might be a little tougher to find right this second, but regular Woodford, no problem. You can grab that probably in your gas station, honestly.
Okay. So distributors are only for beer in Pennsylvania, a place apparently I don't think I ever want to live. If you're separating my beer and my liquor, I need it all in one place. One-stop shop. Seth, come out here. It's much easier. No, I'm far too lazy for that, man. I'm 39. I don't have the energy for that anymore. I can't be running all over the place.
You got kids, man. You got kids.
I got kids. I got mouths to feed. I have things to do.
You're a big deal.
Well, I wouldn't say that. But all right, guys. So that's our bourbon for this week, Woodford Reserve. It is delicious and worth your hard-earned dollars. If you love bourbon and you like it cheap, this is a great one. The double oaked, if you want to splurge and go a little bit crazy, you can go for the double oaked, double up on that flavor. Don't raise the alcohol content. All great things for a bourbon because, I mean, nobody likes to get too hammered on bourbon. It's not a great morning the next morning, that's for sure. And as we like to say on this show, actually, this will be the first time, drink responsibly, people. We're not telling you to go out and get sloshed. Have one, maybe two. And if you're not going to drive, have 10. That's up to you. All right, guys. So I think, Connor, what do you think? On that.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, man. Okay. So on that note, should we get to some DFS golf? Because this is kind of a big week and you've got kind of a fair amount of plays that we need to talk about here.
Yeah, we're going to try and run through this the best we can. So this week we're out at Kiowa Island. It's the ocean course. Like Nate mentioned, it is a Pete Dye design again. I feel like we've had quite a few of those as of late. The course, I think, is going to play pretty difficult if the wind kicks up. So haven't played out here. Now, granted, we're a couple hours south, but haven't played out here in the winds the last couple of days. The first day, 10 to 15 miles an hour. I was even joking with my dad as we were playing. I'm like, this isn't anything. These guys can play in it. But then today, we were out on the coast on about a five hole stretch, and the wind got up and it was gusting, and it was a shore wind, which I didn't know the difference. But apparently, the wind blowing out towards the ocean. God's honest truth, it feels like it's swirling. You're standing there and you can't get a bead on which way the wind is actually blowing. And at 15, 20 miles an hour today, it was playing hell on some of my approach shots. I'm not a PGA professional, but I still like to think that I can hit a ball with the best of them. So that being said, if the wind stays tame, which it looks like it possibly could Thursday and Friday, I think the scoring is going to be relatively high. Those are relatively low, I guess is a better way to put it, those days. At the weekend, it is looking pretty steady that there's going to be some conditions where the wind's going to kick up and swirl a bit. So the last winner out here was Rory in 2012, which is actually one of the last times there was a PGA event held here too. So as we're looking at course history, I mean, you can glean whatever you want from the 2012 tournament. Unfortunately, most of the guys competing in that, you're not going to see this week. So not a whole lot to go on there. Also, there's been some redesigns, some tee box placement changes, things like that over the last, decade and some change. Something to think about too is we're on Paspalum greens, which I actually had to look up. There aren't a whole lot of courses that's prevalent on, and what they are is they tend to be a lot slower than what we're used to the last few weeks. Which, I think if we're using very recent history, if we look at last week's tournament, I think those guys putting on extremely wet greens, you could maybe make some connections in terms of the speed we're looking at and in terms of green reading and all that. But ultimately, it's kind of a crapshoot in my mind as far as what those are going to play like. One thing about Pete Dye courses in general is you have a lot of greenside runoffs. So one thing I am looking at is guys that can scramble and get up and down if they're missing these greens. And especially if the wind kicks up, these greens are not going to be incredibly easy to hit. So it is something to keep in mind is guys that maybe have good around the green game, good scrambling. This is also
guys who use their wedges well.
Yeah, not only wedges, but even like on some of these coastal courses, like even knowing when to putt instead of chip
from the fringe. Got it.
Or even deeper, just guys that have a good all around short game.
Gotcha.
I think there's some value in that this week. Another thing to know too is this is also going to be the longest major championship ever played at 7,876 yards. So we're
as Bo brought up.
Yeah, so it's massive, and I saw Bo comment about bombers and putters, and I'm there on some of the picks. So and I'll come back around to that, but for sure, I mean this is a long course, so you're gonna need to be able to hit the ball. Not that it matters, but Colin Morikawa is the defending PGA Championship winner. 100% not at this course. So, but to know he is the defending champ. And that's really kind of, aside from going hole by hole, which I did, a lot of the holes have some kind of awkward landing zones for some of these bigger hitters, which is not to say that they're not going to be able to excel, but there are some weird spots where the fairways narrow at about 320, 340. You got a lot of danger on the left. Typically, you're going to have some holes that are running right next to the ocean. So you do need some accuracy this week too.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is that you probably wouldn't put money on me to make the cut.
I mean, if the cut was like plus 20, yeah, you're in there, man. You're in the
I still wouldn't put money on me to make the cut at plus 20.
We'll let you play from the women's tees, man. You'll get there. You'll be all right.
Still not going to go plus 20 or better.
Best ball. We'll play best ball.
Okay, that's as long as you put me with Rory McIlroy, we're good.
Yeah,
drop your money on me.
So getting into kind of what I'm looking at this week, I kind of alluded to it, but I am looking for accuracy and approach and proximity when you're hitting the greens. I'm looking at greens and reg. I'm looking at fairways and reg. Fairways and reg was weighted a little heavier because, like I said, there's a lot of guys that have already commented that if you're trying to make approach shots from the rough, good luck. So I want guys that are going to try and hit the fairway. I looked at some of the key approach yardages, and it looks like a lot of the approach shots are going to come from about 175 to maybe 225, depending on the guy. So that was definitely an area that I looked at for approach distance.
Okay.
And then, like I alluded to, also I did weigh scrambling and around the green quite a bit. You just don't know. And I do think, kind of like Bo had alluded to in the chat, like a lot of people are going to be going after bombers, and I think there's a lot of validity to that. But I also think that accuracy players could be right in the mix too. Like I said, you have to be on the fairway, and I think that's going to be critical here. So as you kind of look at some of the bombers, and the one that stands out to me a lot is a guy like Bryson, who in my mind hits the ball farther than anybody else on tour. We all know that, but he also has like one of the lowest fairways in reg of anybody in this tournament. So it's just kind of like weighing how difficult you think it's going to be for Bryson to get up and down out of some of this like penal rough. And quite frankly, I don't know. He's been okay from 150 in, but it's not mind blowing by any means. And if you're off course, left or right, you're in the penalty area, or you're in a waste bunker, or and yeah, exactly. Bryson just does not scramble well enough. And I don't know if it's the one length clubs. I don't know what it is, but he just doesn't have the touch that some of these other guys do. So, but that would be a bomber that stands out in my mind that, like, I don't know that bomb and gouge is going to work great. I'm looking more at the guys that can bomb and be accurate. So
gotcha. So, but okay. So if, let's say, you're going to make your picks tomorrow and the weather has changed and it's looking more like Saturday and Sunday are going to be calm and fair days as well, you're not going to be dealing with any wind, does that change your stance at all?
On Bryson, I don't think it does.
Okay. I mean, fair enough. I just figured I'd ask just out of curiosity. Okay.
And cool. It's probably going to be one of those weeks where I eat my words and Bryson's going to go out and storm and lap everybody. I mean, and that's the risk with not playing Bryson. But in my opinion, this week, I think there's better chance of upside with other guys. And so
gotcha.
I'm going to be kind of out on Bryson.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we've got some plays for you. We've got them tiered for you. So let's take a look at those tiers real quick. Let's start with your tier 1 guys. These are going to be your high priced guys. These are going to be 10,000 and above in DraftKings salary. So who do we have in this tier 1, Connor?
So I'm looking at DJ, I'm looking at JT, and I'm looking at Rory. And so here's the thing with Rory, and everybody who's watched us for more than 1 week is going to sit here and go, of course you're looking at Rory.
Every week.
But here's my stance on Rory. He absolutely played one of the best tournaments of his life at this course in 2012. Now he's a different guy, a lot of challenges, all that. However, watching him win a couple weeks back, I mean, he's he looks like he's finding something. He's a guy that has course knowledge. He's a guy that does have all the weapons. Like, he has all the shots in his repertoire. He can be very accurate and long. He can putt well. So there's a lot of things about him that if he turns it on, I'm not going to be left holding the ticket. Like last week when he won was the only time in the last probably year that I haven't bet on the guy. And the minute I'm out on him, he hit.
Of course.
So I'm just saying, like, it's just me as a Rory truther. Like, you just never know when he's going to hit. And so I definitely am going to have him in some lineups. He rates out really middle of the road, but we all know what he's been doing up until the win. So, I mean, it's not surprising to me that the stats aren't there to back it up.
Right.
But in this field, he's the only one that's really got any course history. So I do think there's some value in that. He does understand what these wins can do.
Absolutely.
So Justin Thomas at 11-3. So a lot of things I like about Justin Thomas this week. I love that as a general statement, Justin Thomas is a pretty accurate player. He is second in this field overall for approach shots. He's in the top 15 for greens and reg, and he's number 1 in opportunities gained. And opportunities gained, if you don't know what that stat is, it's basically when an approach shot lands within, I believe, 10 feet of the hole. So it's basically truly what it means is you're getting an opportunity to score better than par. So he's number 1 in the field in that metric. He's also number 7 in the field in par 4 scoring from 450 to 500 yards, which I also really like because there's quite a few holes that are going to fall in that bucket. Now there's holes outside of that on either side, but that kind of gave me a good feel for maybe he's going to have a lot of opportunity to get some birdies in the scorecard. And the other thing about him too is that he's been on a slump with hitting the fairway, which is a little scary. He's actually damn near the bottom in this field for fairways gained. However, he is a guy that can go out and absolutely hit every single fairway, every single green, and again, just be head and shoulders above everybody else. So I really, really, really like Justin Thomas this week. I believe he's gonna do some special stuff. My other pick is Dustin Johnson up in this tier.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I'm really, really pumped on DJ. DJ crushes the ball. DJ when he has half a brain working, which is not always, not the smartest tool in the bag. But when DJ can putt, DJ's putting is usually lights out. So kind of going with the comment earlier, I really like the idea of Dustin Johnson being able to bomb and being able to putt. He also is right behind JT in opportunities gained. He's number 9 in the field in greens and regulation. So this is a guy that if he gets within the range he's comfortable with, he's going to hit the greens. Which again, that's what we're looking for. You don't want guys that are having to scramble.
Right. Of course.
This guy probably won't have to, so you don't have to worry about the rest. But if he does have to scramble, he's in the top third of the field for scrambling as well. So he's just a well-rounded player. I don't see any reason you can't plug DJ in. And the price is really nice too. At 10.9, you can take some savings there off the top few guys and build a pretty good lineup around that.
I love it. Well, and the thing is, so something I keep thinking about heading in, anytime we head into a major, is that these majors, it's a major. And this is far, it's like Wimbledon, like a Grand Slam in tennis. It's like with golf, you get 4 Super Bowls throughout the course of a season. And so these guys, especially the guys like McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, these guys come to play in these tournaments. And while, their skill set might not always line up with what's going on, there are some guys, like you're talking about how you always like to play Rory McIlroy. Well, there's a reason, because he's one of the best.
Is that he's the one same of the guy as Rory McIlroy?
Rory McIlroy. Isn't that what I said? Did I say McIlroy? Rory McIlroy. I didn't do my vocal exercises before we started the show, so that's my bad. I'm sorry. How now, brown cow? How now, brown cow? Okay, I'm better now. But things like so Rory is a guy who you never know from week to week. Maybe he's tired this week and he just, he doesn't care as much, but you never know when you're going to get that week where he's like, you know what? I'm winning this tournament and I'm going to win this tournament. And then he finishes at least like top 5. So I get it. I totally get it. And I get you always wanting to play him. And I never argue with you when he's in your top tier. and I never will.
No, and really to your point, I mean, these guys are big game hunters, right? Like this is a major. Like they're not out just trying to get their appearance fee and catch their net jet to the next tournament. I mean, like these guys are here to win this. So I mean, the three guys I named, the whole top tier. I mean, these guys are all guys that may come out and really storm the field. I mean, there's just no better way to put it. You just don't know which one it is. What we're trying to do is just kind of mitigate some of the risk and say like, hey, I think these three guys have the best chance to have a consistent, well-rounded game that's going to hold up in whatever the conditions may throw at them this week.
Absolutely. We're doing the work for you guys. That's why you need to be tuning in and listening to what Conor has to say, because he's doing the research. And if you're curious about how he's getting these numbers and how we're coming up with all this, check out fantasynational.com. That's where Conor is building all his models and where I'm trying to pretend like I know what I'm doing in building a model. I'm still learning it. But it's a fascinating platform, and it's so customizable and so amazing. And it's a great way to put yourself in an advantage if you want to do golf DFS.
Yeah, and they're super cool guys over there. I mean, like the metrics and the user interface and everything is just it's so perfect for what we're trying to do. So, and if you, again, like Nate said, if you're not using any kind of stat engine, like you're really missing out. This one is really the best and most approachable that I've found to use. So, definitely take it for a test spin and, hit Nate or I up if you ever are trying to get into using a stat engine and aren't really following what you're trying to do. I mean, either one of us has been using them enough that we could definitely walk people through what to do. So
absolutely. So should we get into our tier 2 guys?
Yeah, let's check out tier 2.
All right, let's hit up that.
This is a fun one.
It's always that middle tier. There's always a little bit more going on there than usual. So
I think all those guys have the same face.
They look fair. Well, the one at the bottom in the ping hat, he looks like he's 14. So go him.
That's my pick to win this thing, my friend.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, let's hear about it.
All right, so the middle schooler that Nate was just talking to is Victor Hovland, and Big Vic rated out. I ran 3 separate stat models this week, and Victor came out number 1 in all of them. So I couldn't find a way to poke a hole in this kid's game. He's just great at everything. If he's got a weakness, I would say that I've seen the putter go cold. I've seen him struggle at times with chipping, although he has openly admitted in the past that he's a horrible chipper, and he has been working his ass off to get better at it. So I really like Victor Hovland this week. I can't poke any holes in his game. He's in the top 20 for every single stat I looked at over 3 different models that I ran. So he's definitely going to compete. A lot of people, including myself, will draw a lot of comparisons to Rory McIlroy in terms of their strengths and how they play the game, how they look at the course, the type of shots they hit. If I like Rory, I definitely like Victor. I think I actually like Victor better than Rory this week, just from the standpoint
sounding like it.
Yeah, and with Victor, I think the thing to keep in mind is this is a kid that is out for blood. I mean, he's ready to go. Rory, you kind of alluded to it. You just don't know where Rory is this week. Like, if his headspace is blood in the water, let's go, then yeah, Rory's going to win. But if he shows up and he's just kind of like happy to be here and, trying to find his game still, and,
his back hurts.
Yeah. Well, and he is dealing with the neck thing. I mean,
yep.
So yeah, Victor Hovland for me is actually my pick to win the tournament. I have very good feelings about what I'm seeing out of him. And again, all the stats are pointing to it. I ran it for 36 rounds. I ran it for the last 50. There's just not a whole lot that I can poke holes in the game. So
gotcha.
Victor Hovland is probably going to make it into almost every single lineup that I do, and I'll find ways to jam him in with the high tier guys too. And then everybody's favorite villain and my second favorite player, Patrick Reed.
He's such a jerk, but he's good. But he's such a jerk.
Is he?
I kind of feel like he is, but also like these are professional athletes. They get to be cocky because I've broken 80 once in my life. So I have no room to talk. They can be as cocky as they want. I'm sure they've earned it.
I mean, the deal with Patrick Reed is I think he's just unrelenting and unapologetic. He just
totally. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nah, hell no. And I think I like him because golf needs that kind of guy. Like there's only a couple of guys that can pull off that bad guy card, and I think that drama is kind of cool. But anyways, with Reed, so there are some stats that actually back up my opinion on Reed. Reed typically in majors outperforms his status going in, which is one thing to look at. I mean, that's a fairly consistent thing. It's not necessarily a tangible deal, but something to definitely keep in mind. The other things I like about him is he can play in adverse conditions. He absolutely can play tough courses, which this is both, either way you cut it. He is good at scrambling. He typically is a good putter, and he is in the top 5 in the field for the par 4 ranges I mentioned. So there's a lot of things to like about Patrick Reed. And again, I think the intangibles, like I said, with Patrick Reed, man, he's going to show up. It's a major.
Right.
He's out for blood. I mean, if anybody in the field, it's him and Brooks Koepka are there to kick ass and take names. So I really like Reed. I really like Reed this week, and Reed's running out of time to really lock up a Ryder Cup spot. I know that's important to him too. So I mean, he's got to put it in gear. So I like that. Getting down to my next guy, Webb Simpson. So Webb Simpson is kind of a weird one. Not the longest of hitters, not the shortest either. He rates out number 10 in my model, which I thought was right where I kind of thought he'd fall. One thing I really like about him though is the shots gained around the green metrics. He's really, really solid in that. As a matter of fact, he's number 8 out of the entire field for that. So the two things there married together that I like is he's accurate, but if he does miss or we do have wind and he's having a hard time hitting the greens or whatever, he can get up and down. So I think Webb is kind of a steady Eddie type of player. He typically does well in South Carolina too. The Heritage stands out as a course that he does pretty well at typically. A couple hours south, but it's still going to have some of the same wind conditions, still some of the same type of play. So Webb is somebody that I would be looking at too. The only thing I don't necessarily love about Webb is at 9,200. That is a little cost prohibitive in terms of playing Victor and Patrick Reed, who objectively I like better.
Gotcha.
Daniel Berger. So Daniel Berger, I've been writing up for several weeks. He's number 7 in the model overall. He is coming in the top 30 in every metric I looked at. He's number 16 for shots gained approach, and he's number 8 in greens and regulation gained, which again were two of the big things I was looking at, guys that are going to be able to hit these greens. He is in the top 30 for fairways gained, which is also another metric that I told you I was looking at.
Right.
So I kind of like how steady he typically is. Even last week, I mean, no, he didn't go out and storm it, but I mean, he performed, he showed up, and not technically, but just based on results so far this season, I mean, he is trending in the right direction at all times. I just kind of like him. 8,700, again, you're getting into a situation where you're going to be probably going more of a balanced lineup and not buying one of the studs up top. But if you're in that situation, I think 8,700 is a good price for Berger. So Matt Fitzpatrick, I kind of have an asterisk next to Matt Fitzpatrick at 8,400. So my feeling on him is that if it does get difficult, he's a better play. If it doesn't, then he's kind of a middling play. Not that he's rating out bad. He's number 12 as I look at my stats. He's right in the top 25 in almost every metric I looked at. So the guy is very solid. You can play him either way, but I like him better if the weather gets worse.
So he's a bad weather guy to you. Got it. Awesome.
I wouldn't even necessarily say bad weather. I just like, because he can play in anything. I just like his value if the weather is bad.
Okay, gotcha.
Terrell Hatton's my last one in that range. Terrell Hatton was trending super high, kind of hit a speed bump, road bump or two over the last month or so. But I do kind of like him, especially again if the weather is a little challenging. And Terrell Hatton's another guy. if you're not familiar with Terrell Hatton, he's about as fiery as they come. And I like that energy. He's going to come out and he's going to try and play. But he is number 10 in opportunities gained, number 10 in shots gained approach. And then he's in the top 24 for the other stats I looked at. So again, just another solid guy. And at $8,000, I like that price. That's a good price for Hatton.
Well, definitely. He's at the bottom of that second tier. So for sure.
So that's tier 2.
So, all right, we've wrapped up our top 2 tiers. Now it's time to hit our third tier. So we're looking at players under between 7,000 and 8,000 in DraftKings salary is kind of where we're at with this one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, awesome. All right, so who do we have here? It's a much smaller list of players, of course.
Yeah, we're getting down to the spots that are going to be a little trickier to find good value in. So Abe Answer actually is number 1 overall in my model. He is as accurate as that you're going to find in this field. He leads the field in fairways gained. He's number 5 in greens and regulations gained. He is number 7 in par 4 scoring from the distances I talked about. Number 10 in shots gained approach, and number 20 in opportunities gained over the term I looked at. So this guy is significantly higher ranked in my modeling than the number 2 guy. I really, really kind of like the value with the Answer at 7,900. I think it's a guy that for sure is going to make the cut. And it's also a guy that I've liked all year. I've written him up several times. I think that Abe Answer is going to be one of those premier players. It's going to just show up at random weeks and win, because he's just got that type of game that when it's firing on all cylinders, there's not a whole lot. Again, he's another guy. There's not a lot of spots to poke holes in. So really, really like Abe Answer again this week. Adam Scott. So Adam Scott popped on a couple of my models. He's not a guy that I typically play. I really, really, really don't trust his driver. I certainly don't trust his putter, but the other metrics that I looked at just kind of pushed me towards him. So, Adam Scott is a little bit more of a gut play in this range, but, I have seen him drive the ball better, and I have seen him putt better over the last few tournaments he's played in. One of the kind of problems with Adam Scott, though, is that he doesn't play as much as the rest of these guys. So it's a lot of times it's a little hard to kind of gauge where he's trending at, which is why I'm saying it's kind of a gut play. Like the last few times I saw him out, I liked the swing. The swing was poetic. And I just think if he puts it together, he's a guy that definitely can compete here. So that's a little more of a gut play on that one, but somebody to look at.
There's nothing wrong with gut plays, though, especially for someone, you, not me. For you specifically, who's been doing this for a while, like you start to learn some things. It's the same thing with fantasy football, DFS, in any sport. Like you have a gut. You've got guys that, hey, you know what? This week I just feel like it might happen. So I love that. And he was on Parks and Rec. Great actor, phenomenal actor. Oh wait, wrong guy. Sorry, my
different dude.
Totally.
Maybe most importantly, he's trending at 3% ownership right now.
Okay, so he's one of those guys that not a lot of people are buying on.
Yeah,
that could set you apart if he does well.
Yep. So he's again, I wouldn't plug him in every lineup, but when you're looking at being overweight to the field, if you're playing 10 lineups, you got to play this guy in 2 lineups to get there. I mean, why not? Might
as well.
So anyways, so that's my Adam Scott take. That's my hot take of the week.
So it looks like we've got Joaquin Neiman next at 7,800. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, you got Neiman, and I'm a fan of Neiman. I'd say the biggest thing that I like about Neiman is he's got a real arsenal of shots, and he's another guy that I like on a week-to-week basis. But again, if he's got to get into a situation where he's playing through wind or he's playing to targets, things like that, he's got a really broad spectrum of shots that he can hit. He's got one of the coolest stinger shots out of half the guys on tour. I mean, he's just got a lot of shots to his game. The other thing I like about him too is at 7,800, he's in the top 25 in most of the metrics I looked at. So he's right there in the middle of the pack. And I don't need him to win at 7,800. I just need him to make the cut and score me some DraftKings points, which he typically does in bunches. So Neiman I appreciate this week just from the standpoint that I think he's relatively accurate. He's gonna score some points for you, and he's got an arsenal of shots that can compete with the weather and the elements if we need it.
Awesome.
And then Corey Connors. Corey Connors is number 2 in my model. Corey Connors is probably number 1 or number 2 in almost everyone's model. The guy's been on a tear. He is pretty popular this week. I believe he's coming in at, let me just pull it back up. Yeah, he's going to get up above about 16% ownership, which for a guy like Corey Connors is probably a bit aggressive. But that he is doing some things that I really like. And I think it's important to take note of. With him, he is number 3 in shots gained approach. He's number 4 in fairways gained. He's number 1 in greens and regulation. He's number 2 in opportunities gained. And he's number 10 in the par 4 scoring from the distances we talked about. So on paper, Corey Connors might be the best play this week.
Ooh, spicy.
But Corey Connors also has one of the most volatile putters on tour. So
I can identify with that.
If he putts, awesome. If he doesn't, I'm sorry I recommended him.
Well, but that's the thing. When we get into these lower tiers of guys, like a lot of these are kind of a crapshoot. I mean, you never know. I mean, that kind of leads into our final tier here, our dart throws, because that's almost what you're saying Corey Connors is. So now we've got our final tier. These are the cheaper guys. These are, as Connor likes to say, and I just said, our dart throws. So the first one we've got on tap here is Stuart Sink.
Yeah, so Stuart Sink. All right. So my stats really don't love Stuart Sink. I like Stuart Sink's game though for this particular setup. I think the guy is gonna give you accurate shots. He's gonna be safe for the most part. He just won the Heritage. I mean, there's a lot of things to like with Stuart Sink. He's also great around the greens and on the greens. So he's not gonna be the longest guy out there at all, but he's another guy that's just very steady. And to see him kind of competing, I don't feel like a top 20, even maybe a top 15 is out of the question for him. Okay. I don't know that he's got the distance in the bag to win this tournament. But again, just depends on how the weather and the course hold up. I mean, he could go out and be the consistent guy that runs away with it.
Well, I think something that's important to talk about with these lower tier guys, we're not talking about them because we think they're necessarily going to win the tournament. We're talking about them because they're a value pick that can get you enough points where it makes sense that you rostered them. Does that feel right?
Yeah, it absolutely feels right. And I think the important thing to hit on too is that it's about roster construction, right? So
absolutely.
If you're going to play a guy who's 11,000 plus, I hate to break it to you, you're probably going to have to go sub 7K and play at least one guy.
Right.
If not more. I mean, you're going to be in the 7K and the 6K quite a bit. So, a guy like Stuart Sink, who I feel very confident is at minimum going to make the cut and potentially could compete. I think 6,900 is a hell of a value for him. Totally.
I completely agree. So it looks like our next guy we've got on tap is, I'm going to say this wrong, Joel Dawman.
I hear it both ways. I always say Joel Dawman.
Joel Dawman. I'm sold on that too. That's fine with me.
But anyways, so Joel, a lot of people will know Joel's the guy that wears the funny bucket hat.
Okay. Yep.
So anyways, the thing that stood out to me about Joel that I really liked, it's $6,400, which now we're getting to like very near the bottom, is he hits fairways. As a matter of fact, he's in number 17 in the field for hitting fairways, which we've talked about is probably the biggest thing that these guys are all looking at this week is being on the fairway, being able to make their approach shots.
Right.
Which leads me to my next thing. He's also number 30 for the key par 4 scoring, or the key distances for par 4 scoring that we looked at. So not only is he going to hit the fairway on these par 4s and those distances, but then his approach shots are going to be at least manageable to the point where he's going to score on these par 4s. There's some other stats I don't absolutely love about him. He's not necessarily the best scrambler, and he's not always necessarily the best putter. But I think at $6,400, I'll take a guy that's in the top 20 for fairways gained because, again, that's what we're looking for. We want a guy that's going to be accurate. So
right.
That's my Joel Dawman take. So Ches Reavie, this is Ches screws me more often than enter any colorful idea that you have there. But Ches is trending nicely. He does have a good approach game. He can get hot with the putter. It doesn't happen frequently, but he can. And he is fairly accurate. When he's firing on all cylinders, he's not bad at all. As a matter of fact, he's number 6 in the field for fairways gained. So he's going to hit your fairways. He's actually in the top 40 for shots gained approach, which I like. And then he's number 40 for opportunities gained as well. So when he's getting the fairway, when he's getting his approach shots, he is getting in a close proximity to the hole. So there are scoring opportunities there. All we need is for Ches to catch a hot putter, even just to get through the cut, and you're going to get some points out of the guy. And again, $6,400. This is just somebody that I feel at least relatively confident is gonna score for you. And then my feel good dart throw of the week is Harold Varner the third. And I'll just be honest. HV3 popped in one of my models. He's just one of those guys that I like to play. I want to see him do well. I want to see him win. And he's not horrible in my statistical models. I mean, he is 30th overall, which is not bad. It's $6,600. He is in the top 50 for fairways gained, shots gained, scrambling, 25 for greens and regulation gained, 18 for opportunities gained. The thing that I maybe don't love about Harold so much is he's not super great at the par 4 scoring range that I've laid out. So that's probably the one I guess big against him.
These are dart throws though. I mean, nobody's saying that these guys are going to go out and win the tournament. We just need them to make the cut. That's all we're looking for.
I need.
Get to Saturday. Just get to Saturday. If you can get to Saturday and score me some points through Saturday, thank you. Thank you.
Through. That's all I'm
Exactly.
looking for.
Exactly.
Yep. So those are my picks. But, just to reiterate, if I had to force rank them, I like Victor, I like Rory, and then I probably like Patrick Reed as my top 3 guys to win the tournament.
Gotcha. So. Beautiful. Well, all right, guys, we're running up on an hour. This one was a little long, but it was a major. And there's a major amount of things to talk about with these tournaments. That was a terrible pun. I promise I will never do that again.
Yeah, you're fired, Nate.
I'm so fired. So fired. Jen's going to make me sleep on the couch tonight for that. Man.
I'll call her right now to make sure that happens.
Well, she's watching, so she knows. Perfect. She'll make sure of it.
Get the blanket and the pillow ready.
They're always there. That's the thing. They're always at the ready. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was another great week of the 19th hole. I hope you enjoyed our Woodford Reserve tasting and our notes. It's a delicious bourbon. I will be drinking more of it tonight, which
yes, sir.
If I'm sleeping on the couch, that's just fine.
See if I can get my parents to have a couple with me.
I'm sure you got to tell them, like, guys, I just did a show from your home. How cool is that? Let's drink some bourbon.
Let's go.
All right, guys. Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. Seth, thank you very much. We always appreciate that. Oh, Gary, I'm just kidding. She loves me. She's awesome. All right, guys. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. I'd like to give a shout out to Bo and Hotbox. If you're watching this, seriously, if you love hot sauce, you need to get Hotbox hot sauce. I'm not looking for an endorsement. I just really do love it that much. All right, guys. Good luck this weekend on your DFS. And Connor?
Cheers, Nate.
Cheers, guys. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you in 2.